Okay, so without further ado, to you and you and you, I'm going to get started. So first off, as we're getting started here, I like to look to the past. I like to look at specifically, what were the ancients doing? Because I believe that the ancient Egyptians, Sumerians, people like Pythagoras and Plato and Hippocrates and Leonardo da Vinci, during these ancient times, at really the peak of the Renaissance and many different eras, I believe that there were very intelligent human beings and even entire cultures and societies that, hundreds of thousands of people existed that were very clean. In fact, Herodotus traveled to Egypt and said the Egyptians were the healthiest, most cleanly people of all existence that didn't deal with the same diseases even that the Greeks and things did. And the Greeks had massive breakthroughs with aqueducts and sewage and cleanliness, public bathing and all these types of different things for hygienic means that is really one of the massive things that prevents disease. You can see statistically where disease really dropped massively when we got our shit together, literally. We got our shit together and learned how to plumb things and get rid of poo and filter things and get really hygienic. That's where all of a sudden disease went away, because when everybody's crapping on top of each other, it leads to plague, it leads to all kinds of different diseases. So Hippocrates, the father of medicine, literally said, "Let food be thy medicine." And Hippocrates became very prominent and laid the foundation for modern medicine after his travels to Egypt. So he actually traveled to Egypt and stayed for some 5 to 7 years, learning to become a physician. And he became a basic physician in that time. That was the minimal amount of time required in Egypt to become a physician. They had what they referred to as master physicians who studied for anywhere from 20 to 22 years. And that was the period of time that Pythagoras had stayed there. So, in the degree of knowledge and understandings and, being a physician, Pythagoras learned so much more. But Pythagoras never documented anything. Pythagoras passed things mouth to ear, created what was called the Pythagorean Society, and shared information mouth to ear. People would become a member of the Pythagorean Academy. And that's where proponents of Plato came from, and Socrates, and it led into a whole renaissance, starting with really Pythagoras, who only brought the knowledge out of Egypt and really shared it with the Western world. But Hippocrates was one of these individuals that came out and really openly shared everything and started practicing medicine and really helping people from a perspective of what he was taught. And I know that, it's cute to say, he basically said, "Let food be thy medicine." But it really is, it goes a lot deeper. And it's much more profound. People hear this, "Oh yeah, let food be thy medicine." They don't really get into what that actually means and the profound essence of the deepness behind these teachings. And that's what I want to get into today. You'll have to excuse me just for a second. I'm going to throw on a microphone and a headset because I believe that you might hear me even a little more clearly. So I just plugged that in. And I'm just going to ask the question, is that better for you guys? Can you hear me a little more clear? Actually worse. Anybody else agree? Yes, better. Yes, better. Not as clear, no. Was better before. Okay, I've got a mixed bag here going on. So let me ask one more time, is this better? Let's see what we got. It's kind of like a vote going on here. Muffled, worse. Okay, I'm going to take it out. I'm back to basically the computer, and I'll just ask again, is it better with just the computer? Yay, better. Okay, cool. So I'm going to stick with just the computer then. Let's see here. Sorry to stall you guys a little bit. I'm just trying to figure out this plug for my power. I've got it plugged in, but for some reason, there we go. Now it's connecting. Now my computer won't go dead 20 minutes in. And like I said, if this does become muffled or have some issues, this is being recorded. I've got 2 different ways that I'm recording this right now, so you will absolutely have a recording. Unless a meteor hits my house and just takes us all out, then we might not have a recording. Cancel, clear, delete. Life is good. Everything is safe. Okay, so let food be thy medicine. Now, Hippocrates specifically, when he left, had learned a lot about identifying disease as well. Within the face, looking at the face, within looking at the eyes, he was taught something called iridology. Iridology is something that's really come back in a massive way. There were specific doctors, in the late 1800s and early 1900s that started really picking this up and seeing these things. And there's an exact science to it. And it's taken, another how many hundred of years to really solidify all this. But the documents and records of ancient Egypt and even ancient China have very profound understandings of iridology. So Hippocrates, set up an office and set up a situation which, modern medicine has pretty much mimicked. When you go to a doctor and the doctor's got a white coat and a stethoscope and some basic things, that's essentially what was set up thousands of years ago by Hippocrates. Only things have changed more to blood tests and different forms of testing rather than iridology and sclerology. And I find it quite interesting as to why, because iridology was very profound in identifying specific toxicity, congestion, and things that were going on. And I think that when you look in a person's eyes and you see that there's specific blockage and toxicity of a specific organ, it makes more sense to the individual. Oh, if my eyes, you can tell that I've got, toxicity and blockage in the liver, people are more inclined to go do a liver cleanse and start to heal their liver naturally. Whereas today, they'll do a blood test and they'll say, oh, you've got this Latin, pylorrhea, staphylococcusness, whatever. And they make it so confusing and so foreign because Latin is a dead language and it's only used in the medical system, kind of to hide what's actually going on. And so it disempowers people and they have no idea what you're talking about. And then you're more susceptible, I believe, to taking a pharmaceutical drug or having an intervention that normally you probably wouldn't do. If you looked in the eyes and saw that the liver was a little bit toxic and they said they wanted to cut out half of it, you'd probably be like, oh, well, give me some time. Let me see if I can drink some lemon juice and do a cleanse and maybe a fast and eat healthy foods for a couple months and come back and see if it looks better. So I believe personally that iridology is the most profound way to identify congestion, toxicity, and overall weakness within the body and different organs. And the cool thing about it is you can actually see things manifesting many times years before it actually becomes systematic, symptomatic, and a problem, which is fantastic. Whereas nowadays, people, once they have an actual issue and they're experiencing symptoms and problems, then they go in, then they're tested, and a lot of times it's too late, or people are forced into surgeries or medications and different treatments that actually end up poisoning the body and just alleviating the symptoms, not necessarily dealing with the actual causal issues, which is what a lot of times the iridology leads to. Now, a lot of actual medical doctors were turned on to iridology and started looking into it and studying it and started applying it and getting fantastic results with it. And many other medical doctors back in these times became very upset and said that it was quackery and actually took a lot of these doctors to court and sometimes even Supreme Court to charge them with being charlatans and ripping people off and making stuff up. And in Supreme Court, it was actually proven time and time again when people were hauled into court to be sued for what they were doing, that iridology was actually scientifically the number one way of identifying stress and toxicity and disease conditions within the body. And a lot of times even a lot sooner than when people were manifesting symptoms. So I find that quite intriguing. And you can find some of those court documents in Dr. Bernard Jensen's book, who's a doctor and PhD, and some other proponents as well. There's also something called sclerology, which is looking at the whites of your eyes. Now, individuals who are healthy should have white, clear eyes. That's a sign of health because the whites of your eyes is a reflection of the lymphatic fluids all throughout your body. And when you have a congestion or a toxicity in the liver or in the kidneys or in the lungs or in the brain or anywhere in your body, it shows up as these red lines. It's so profound. It's almost like, modern day technology with a car. If you're having car troubles and you take it to a mechanic, he doesn't have to open it up like a surgeon opening up your body and look and see what's going on. He can literally plug in a computer and it'll give him a readout of what's happening. It'll actually say, the spark timing is off, or the timing belt, or your alternator's having issues not charging the battery correctly, or you're having carburetor issues, fuel injection issues, and it'll give you a readout of everything going on. And that's absolutely what's taking place in your eyes as well. Literally. When I look into people's eyes, it's like a reading printout that just says, hey, you're having, thyroid congestion, thyroid issues. Now, I can't see the level of T3 and T4 by looking in your eyes, but I can see that you have congestion of the thyroid, or you have a toxicity of the thyroid, and therefore I can make recommendations to heal the thyroid. Same thing with the digestive system. You can see the state of the colon, you can see the state of the small intestine, you can see the state of the adrenal glands and the kidneys, the pancreas. So much is shown. And the cool thing is that a lot of this is related as well. For example, when you see typically colon issues in people and there's big fat lines, it'll connect to either the kidneys or the liver or different areas, and you can actually directly see, you have a congested colon, it's backed up, there's toxicity, and that's affecting your liver, and now your liver's toxic and having issues. So instead of just attacking the liver or working on the liver, cutting out the liver, you can get to the actual original cause, which is cleansing the colon, rebuilding the bowel, and that then alleviates all that excess toxicity on the liver. So really profound stuff, and this is really ancient techniques that were brilliant that have been brought back and are an exact science today. And in my 13-week Heal Thyself at Home program, I teach all of the foundational principles of iridology and sclerology, and even provide charts and things so that you can identify this stuff within yourself. Once you start to identify it in yourself and you start to take action based on the remedies and the cleanses and the foods and the lifestyle that I recommend in order to heal these things, once you do it, then essentially you can be of service to others. Once you heal thyself, which is what it's called, then you have the experience, you have the knowledge, you have the understanding, and the vitality that comes afterwards for people to notice that you've actually healed yourself, and then other people become very interested in that. Just had a little weird funkiness going on over here. Can you guys still hear me? Just raise your hand if you can still hear me. Cool. Excellent. Man, you guys are awesome. We got tons of you on here. I really appreciate you being here again. So, just to recap, a lot of people have come on in just the last few minutes. Hippocrates laid the foundation for modern medicine. He said, let food be thy medicine. And he used iridology and sclerology and literally looking at the face and the body. If you want to know if you're healthy, look at your nails. They should be fairly pink. They should have little moons on them. They shouldn't have marks all over them. They shouldn't have ridges. Look at your tongue. Stick out your tongue. What does it look like? Is there deep grooves in it? Is there a lot of film on it? Are there edges, like wavy edges around the edges of the tongue? Do you have bumps on the tongue? What color is the tongue? Look at your toes. Look at your feet. Are they perfect and healthy, or do they have fungus? Do they have weird misshapen toes? Are they curved to the left or to the right? Do you have big bunions? Do you have moles? Do you have skin tags? Do you have marks on your body? Do you have acne? What does your skin look like? What do your eyes look like? What does your face look like? Do you have smooth skin? Do you have wrinkles? Do you have really big open pores? Do you, looking at the body, we can see how healthy a person is. And you can't lie about it. I have people come to me all the time that say, Tyler, I'm perfectly healthy. And I'm just like, right. And that's why you've got skin tags here and acne on your face and big red lines in your eyes, screaming at me that you're unhealthy and congested. So once we become aware of this and we start to heal ourselves, then we're really of service to other people because we can see these things. And if people are looking for some help, we can help them through these processes and understandings. So with that, I want to go back to a guy by the name of Paracelsus, who was a Swiss physician who lived in the 16th century. Paracelsus held a natural affinity with Hermetic, Neoplatonic, and Pythagorean philosophies central to the Renaissance. Paracelsus pioneered the use of chemicals and minerals in medicine. He was one of the main proponents for establishing chemistry in the modern day. But he was just simply using what he was taught about alchemy that came from the land of Chem. The land of Chem was Egypt. And we call it Egypt, but it was called the land of Chem, or Kemet. And it was where chemistry comes from. It's where alchemy comes from. And anything with that kind of sound is coming from there. Chiropractic adjustments is coming from Egypt. All these really brilliant understandings really come from the records of ancient Egypt, which were actually from another civilization as well. And I'm not here to go into Egyptian history, but what I'm saying is the ancient Egyptians were far beyond a level of health and vitality and understanding and consciousness, in my opinion, than even where we are at today. So what I like to use in teaching and sharing is I call a retrofuturist. It's looking to the past for the most profound wisdom and understandings, and also looking to the future and the present day of science. And what we're finding today is that science and the ancient past are coming together, and they're starting to agree with each other more and more and more. And it's a fantastic thing to see. I just looked up, your simple Wikipedia, looking at Paracelsus, developed the concept, writing, "Nature marks each growth according to its curative benefits," saying that the doctrine of signatures or signs in nature, there are specific herbs and plants that mimic the actual organs of the body. The writings of Jacob Boehme in the late 1500s, early 1600s spread the doctrine of signatures. He suggested that God marked objects with a sign or signature for their purpose. Plants bearing parts that resemble human body parts, animals, or other objects were thought to be useful relevance to those parts. And you're going to see here in a few moments how they're specifically designed. There is not a single anatomical, physiological part of a human body that isn't represented in nature. Every single part of the human body can be found in nature, down to the minutest cell. We can see perfect mimicry in nature, and many times in the form of edible foods and herbs and things that directly, teleological, nutritionally target those organs and those specific organelles of the body, even your eyes, your pancreas, your heart, your liver. And these are some of the things that I want to talk about and discuss. Now, really big proponents for this are the shamans of the Amazon. The shamans are people who are really in touch with nature and in touch with the plants, and it's almost like Mother Nature speaks to them. And they have the ability to really see things that many of us don't see today. And one of the major stories that came out that started this whole thing was, Westerners would go down to the Amazon, they'd be walking through the forest and the jungle, and sometimes within 15 to 20 minutes, you were absolutely done. You were gone, you were dead. That was how powerful the venom of these snakes were. Now the shamans, being very in tune with nature, always knew that for every problem that has ever existed and that will ever exist, and I could go deep into this with radioactive materials and plastic and all these problems that we've created today, Mother Nature already has a solution. Mother Nature is intelligent and constantly developing solutions for all of these problems. Even the radioactive spill of Fukushima, all these things that have been going on, Mother Nature already has solutions and is dealing with it. Mother Nature is fine. And we always talk about destroying the planet and ruining the planet. Well, really, we're destroying ourselves. We're polluting ourselves. We're destroying the inhabited areas where we live and just making ourselves more toxic. And yes, we're also poisoning the planet, but the planet will be fine. We'll die off long before the planet ever dies. And that's really the truth. So these shamans had the ability to really be in tune and see the solutions. And so when someone was bitten by this snake, they'd simply go out, pick a flower, grind it up, feed it to the person, and put it on the actual wound, and the person would recover. Absolutely brilliant. Natural, anti-venom in a flower. And now, University of the United States found out about this, and they're freaking out. They're like, how the hell are these, shamans dressed up in funny clothes without advanced pharmacology and testing hundreds of thousands of different plants and their components? How the hell could they ever tell that plant would be an antivenom to this person? And so they actually went to the Amazon and confronted the shamans and said, hey, how is it that you knew this stuff? Because in science, when you find a tribe or a culture that has more knowledge than you, then you have to take it as truth. And the shaman would actually take them out and point at the actual plants that were the natural antivenoms and say, well, that's how we knew. Look at it. And they would look at it and they'd be like, well, what do you mean? It's just a plant. And they'd say, no, take a closer look. If you look at this plant, it looks just like the local snake that actually poisons people. So Mother Nature provides the solution for people with eyes to see and ears to hear. If you're walking along and you're actually in tune with nature, you'd be seeing the different plants and observing these different plants. Then if you were bitten by a snake and you saw the snake that bit you, you'd be like, oh, wow, you know what? I got like 15 to 20 minutes here to go back and pick that plant that I just saw that looked just like that snake, eat as much as I can and put it on this wound and I'll survive. So it's almost like people who are in tune with Mother Nature are the ones that'll survive, and the ones who are not will not, because they're not in tune with what Mother Nature is providing as solutions. There are many different herbs that exist. One of them called eyebright that many people have observed looks like the whites of the eyes, and a lot of times they'll have little red marks on them. And at different times of the day, they'll show up with different things, and they thought, wow, this kind of looks like, the whites of the eyes, and potentially it can heal it. So when you actually take this herb, eyebright, it actually whitens the eyes, which I believe the herb is actually good for the entire lymphatic system, if that makes sense. Before I go any further, I'm just going to check in with you guys one more time and make sure that you can still hear me. So I'll put down some of your hands. Got hundreds of you on here. Just raise your hand if this is flowing okay. Beautiful. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. So the Doctrine of Signatures. When we look at a carrot, you pull it out of the ground, you slice it open, it looks like it has a pupil with an iris and radiating lines. University of Berkeley, California has shown that if you eat one medium-sized carrot every single day, it enhances blood flow to your eyes by some 25 to 30%. The carotenes inside of carrots and other orange foods specifically target your eyes. I've been teaching people for many years very specific eye exercises and specific things to do nutritionally, like drinking carrot juice and eating carrots and greens and things. And within a period typically of 4 to 6 months, you'll have a massive improvement in eyesight. I've had people go with really thick glasses all the way back to 20/20 vision. And I've got plenty of testimonials of people that have written and shared this stuff with me. And it's brilliant. We don't have to have bad eyesight. And the same thing in children. Children that have bad eyesight, they just need the proper nutrients. And their eyes will rebuild very quickly. Once they have the blood flow, you release the pressure, you get the eye exercises going, and you make that a daily ritual, we can have perfect eyesight. Your entire body regenerates all of the time when it has the proper nutrition and the proper detoxification. You look at the human heart. A tomato is red. It's the size of the heart. It has something called lycopene, one of the most profound concentrations of lycopene, which if you go to the American Heart Association's foundation, they'll They'll tell you lycopene and tomatoes are the best food to build the circulatory system and to be healthy for the heart. 4 chambers, looks like the heart. There you go. We have grapes. There's red grapes and green grapes. They hang in a cluster, kind of looking like the heart. And we have red blood cells and white blood cells. Now, we know through science that grapes are one of the best anti-aging foods. They build the blood. They clean the blood. Absolutely fantastic. And even fermenting grapes and making wine is a beautiful thing for the health and longevity of the circulatory system. It's only when we start to add chemicals and sulfites that then poison the liver and cause cancer and cause all kinds of other issues. So wine is great. Socializing and drinking wine has been around for thousands and thousands of years. We just need to avoid the toxicity. You look at white grapes and they build the immune system, and there's plenty of studies that show this, that white grapes are good for the white blood cells. My dad specifically has a protocol for people with cancer, and he's got quite a few people that have healed themselves of cancer. Kevin McNairn is one of them, who had advanced prostate cancer and followed this protocol. And it's eating 1 kilogram of red grapes and white grapes every day. It's eating 1 head of raw broccoli and 1 head of steamed broccoli every day, and eating these foods for about a week, and then doing 21 days on Kabbalah juice. So doing a juice fast and healing the entire body, and then coming out of it, you do the same thing, and you continue that lifestyle for about another 30 days, and the results are absolutely profound. You look at celery. Celery is shaped like the bones. It looks like the bones. It has about 23% sodium. Your bones are composed of about 23% sodium. And in fact, celery is one of the best foods for bone density. There's 2 things, in fact: sodium, celery, and also strength training, specifically. When we do strength training, that also builds the density of our bones. And people, all the time are taking calcium supplements. And by taking calcium supplements, you're actually calcifying the body. You might end up with kidney stones. You might end up with all kinds of issues. But our body doesn't use calcium to build calcium. I know it sounds crazy, but our body makes calcium with salt, water, and sunshine. And I know it sounds nuts, but if you go out and you look in the ocean is salt, water, and the area where sunshine can hit the bottom of the ocean, coral calcium grows. Calcium is developed. All coral in the ocean is from salt, water, and sunshine. And that's how it's produced. And it's the same in human beings. But humans think they're so smart, and they go take these rocks out of the ocean, they grind them up, and they sell them as nutritional supplements. And people pay hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars throughout their lifetime to be eating coral calcium on the bottom of the ocean, when really they should just be eating celery, getting out in the sun, staying hydrated, and their bones will be fine. And it's the alkalinity as well that keeps the calcium and things inside of the bones. When we become acidic, our body leaches those minerals from the bones to combat the acids within the body. And that's when you end up having teeth problems and cavities and issues from an acidic environment. In fact, if you could just measure the pH of your saliva, and if you're eating a healthy diet, one in tune with human health, your saliva will be alkaline. If your saliva is alkaline, your teeth will not be robbed of calcium, period. But if you test your saliva and it's acidic, guess what? Your teeth are slowly decaying. And I personally like my teeth, so I choose to maintain a lifestyle that causes for my saliva to be alkaline. You look at a walnut. In fact, Leonardo da Vinci had paintings of walnuts and brains right next to each other, kind of giving us a message here in the future. If you look at a walnut, the actual walnut has a husk like the skin. It's got a hard shell, just like the cranial cap and the skull. You crack it open, there's a left hemisphere, right hemisphere. Looks like convoluted trititic folds across the top. If you break a walnut perfectly in half, it looks just like the corpus callosum, or center of the brain. Baylor University also in the United States, found that walnuts have perfect balance of omega-3, 6s, and 9s that actually cross what's called the BBB, or blood-brain barrier, enhancing brain function and improving the quality of the tissue within the brain, the good fats. And in fact, it's the fish oils that will not cross the blood-brain barrier. A lot of people take fish oil to build their brain, but it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Because all fish oil is contaminated. It's contaminated with mercury and other things, and the blood-brain barrier will not allow fats and other things that are contaminated to cross the blood-brain barrier. So throw that shit away, save the fish, allow them to swim in the ocean, and simply eat some walnuts that grew on a tree. Or pecans. Pecans actually enhance blood flow to the brain as well. And we look at pecans, it'll make perfect sense as to why. Look at an avocado. It's shaped like a womb and cervix, has one big swollen seed inside. Avocados target the health and function of the womb and cervix of the female. They look just like these organs. Avocados help women balance hormones and shed unwanted birth weight. Studies have been done with avocados that show if you eat one medium-sized avocado every single day, your body's receiving good fats and will start to shed bad fat. Now, you also need to cut out trans fat, which means you need to stop eating fried oils. You need to stop eating hydrogenated oils in all of the products that are in the grocery stores. Just read the ingredients. Even chips and breads and pastas and everything has hydrogenated oils. Hydrogenated oils are what create trans fat, which is like a toxin and a poison inside of your body. Leads to all types of issues, end up having heart attacks, blocked arteries, atherosclerosis, all of these things. We need to cut out those bad fats and focus on the good fats from whole foods. Things like olives, things like avocados. Now, how long do you think it takes to grow an avocado? Ding, 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 ding. Exactly 9 months. From blossom to ripe fruit, it takes exactly 9 months to grow an avocado. Is that a coincidence? I think not. If a woman's pregnant, if your wife gets pregnant or you're pregnant, start eating avocados because those are the good fats that will really build everything. An avocado is complete nutrition. All of the essential fats and all of the essential amino acids. You could live on avocados alone, and not only would you live, you would thrive on avocados. And yes, avocado is a fruit, which means you could live only on fruits and be perfectly healthy. And I think that we are frugivores by nature. You look at ginseng, just have a look at this root. And a lot of times these roots are pulled up and look just like this. It looks like the human body. And in fact, I believe it looks like the nervous system of the human body. You know, a lot of people with nervous system disorders and issues can find improvement. It's also an aphrodisiac. If you look at the roots, some of them look like they have genitals of the female parts and genitals of the male parts. It's quite interesting, actually. And a lot of people that have ginseng really improve in that area. So I try to avoid it as much as possible. So I don't need any help in that area. Look at a watermelon. We call it an actual melon. We call our head a melon. You know, use your melon. It looks like literally a head and a brain. You know, somebody carved one out that looks like a brain here. A watermelon's about 93% water. The brain and its surrounding fluids are about 93% water. It's said that the fluid of watermelon actually matches what's called hydronium within the brain, chemically. That's what our body converts water into. And I know from personal experience, anytime I need my brain to be on, I eat watermelon. It's like it hydrates and activates the brain. Our brain runs on sugars, carbohydrates. And some of those best sugars come from a watermelon. Before I go on stage and speak to 400, 500, 600 people on tour each city, I'm eating watermelon to really get my brain on fire and kicking and working. So when I go up there, I'm with it. I'm onto it. You look at the pancreas. They say one of the best foods for diabetics is the low glycemic index that comes from yams and sweet potatoes. My dad says there's actual fibers inside of a sweet potato that cleans and cures and heals the pancreas and also the spleen. So really have a look at that and think about it. What if specific foods target organs? And if I'm diabetic, I can eat sweet potatoes and yams and whole foods for 30 days and actually heal myself of diabetes. What if? You look at people like Dr. Gabriel Cousens with the Tree of Life Center in Arizona, and he's actually got documentaries of healing people with type 1 and type 2 diabetes. People are like, wait a second, type 1 is an autoimmune disease that cannot be cured. Well, he's doing it. And guess what? People like my father and I have been doing it for years as well. Literally working with people. I work with children with type 1 diabetes who have massive improvements, massive improvements, and have found a lifestyle where they don't even need the insulin. And sometimes they, cheat and do things where they do require some. And then I have other people completely reverse type 2 diabetes. And it's all based on dietary principles. You look at an orange. If you cut an orange open and look at the inside and look at a breast and the lymphatic tissue of a breast, they look identical. And it's citrus, limes, lemons, and oranges specifically that target the lymphatic system of the body, that open it up, that clear it out, that get it moving. So a lot of times cancer of the breast is the blockage and the toxicity of the lymphatic glands within the breast. Breast tissue is just a massive amount of lymphatic tissue. And when that gets blocked, typically by wearing an underwire of the bra, by putting on deodorant and antiperspirants that are carcinogenic, propylene glycol is carcinogenic, aluminum has carcinogenic properties, women put it on every single day. We're supposed to sweat and eliminate toxins through the armpits, and we're putting on chemicals known to cause cancer in order to block that. It's just absolutely ridiculous. People need to stop using all deodorant and just use essential oils. People, ladies especially, should look for bras that don't have that underwire that pinch the lymphatic system. And if all the ladies would just take off their shirts and bounce on trampolines, all the men would be happy, people would be stoked, and we would heal breast cancer. So we should just have a massive philanthropic park put together with trampolines and invite women to come bounce and move their boobs and in the name of healing breast cancer. Yay! And I'm sure lots of people will come and donate. It'll be fantastic. And yes, I'm just joking. But it would be cool. Olives. Look at the word olive. Olive. Assist the health and function of the ovaries. An Italian study found that women whose diets included a lot of olive oil had a 30% lower risk of ovarian cancer. The reasons are unclear, but the healthy fats in the oil may help suppress genes predisposed to causing this cancer. And it looks like the ovaries. What if that plant actually nutritionally targets the ovaries? So people with polycystic ovarian syndrome or ovarian cysts or all these kinds of things, I believe they can be greatly healed or enhanced through the process of using olives and even olive oil. Look at the kidneys. We have kidney beans, and if you look at the way that kidney beans grow on a plant, you look at the kidneys, quite shocking. And there are components of kidney beans that specifically target the kidneys. And then there's specific herbs and things as well that are really good for the urinary tract and the kidneys. And a lot of them look similar. Uva ursi, dandelion root, parsley, chansa piedra, breaks up stones within the kidneys. Absolutely brilliant. When we look at the liver, if you look at the way the liver looks on an actual liver that's been removed from a human, it looks kind of like the skin on a lemon. But the lemon specifically it's the only food in existence that has a complete anionic composition. There's cationic and anionic, and lemons are completely anionic. And there are cells within the liver that are also functioning and working on an anionic orbit. And when we drink lemon juice or eat lemons specifically, it cleanses and rebuilds the liver. The thing you got to understand, though, is within 30 seconds of exposure to the air, that anionic material in a lemon becomes cationic. So you literally have to press it and drink it right away. Amazing stuff. And then there are different herbs that profoundly affect the liver that are brilliant. Yellow dock, peppermint, dandelion root, milk thistle, helps with the detoxification and poisoning such as alcohol, regeneration, damaged liver tissue, stimulation of bile production, and improved digestion. This is one that I've always seen that I've never seen anybody talk about, and it's an eggplant. I believe an eggplant looks just like the gallbladder. And in fact, it's got a green cap on it. And what comes out of the gallbladder? Well, bile acids. And it looks green when it comes out of the body, when it's exposed to oxygen. So quite interesting. What if whole foods target specifically different organs and systems of the body, like the nervous system, the circulatory system, the lymphatic system, all of these amazing systems that we need to be open and clear. So that's the presentation that I wanted to share with you guys and inspire you to start going back to the farm. Start getting back to simplicity of whole foods and what grows in your area. Go into a grocery store, go into a farmer's market, or even just out in nature and start looking at whole foods and asking the question, what does this look like? Get out some anatomy books and start looking through them. And you'll start to find some beautiful things. And if you have a condition specifically of the lungs, I didn't even put that one on there. Broccoli kind of sounds like the bronchioles of the lungs. Broccoli looks like the ventricles of the lungs. It's been found as one of the #1 anti-cancer components of lung cancer. People with lung cancer, there have been plenty of studies that have been done with broccoli and lung cancer. You look at cauliflower, kind of the same thing. So really get into this and look at it and get back to Mother Nature and see what can be provided. So with that, I've taken plenty of time presenting. I want to open up and see what kind of questions I have here. So I'm going to go to some Q&A. Hopefully you guys have been asking some questions. All right. Interesting. When I was first diagnosed with cancer, I had cravings for grapes and broccoli. Magic, Barclay, you are magic. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And that's so cool that your body was in tune enough to actually be craving those types of foods. And I say it all the time, we need to follow, especially after a cleanse, when we've done a fast or we've cleansed our bodies, we need to really follow what our body's craving. Pregnant women come to me all the time, say, Tyler, what is it specifically I should eat? And I always give recommendations, but I also say, look, follow your cravings. And you know what? You'll have cravings for the weirdest kind of foods, the most ridiculous kinds of things, but just do it, honor it. Because maybe there's a component in there that your body's really looking for. And then in general, try to live, a healthy lifestyle and pick some good fresh plant materials as well. Is that also fish you fish from a pond or river? Someone was asking. And I would say that ocean fish specifically are probably more polluted than river or pond or lake fish. And the ancient Egyptians actually taught, even thousands and thousands of years ago, that you shouldn't eat salty fish. You shouldn't eat saltwater fish, sorry. You should only eat freshwater fish. And that's what they taught to some degree, supposedly. Again, this is information that I've received passed down, and who knows. But if you're eating fish, apparently freshwater fish, and if you could be there catching it yourself and you can see that the river is fresh and clean. You go to Montana, you go to some of these places where there's beautiful fresh rivers, fantastic. Catching a fish and eating it here in Bali, not so much. Probably kill you. And that's actually happened here in Bali to a mother and her daughter. Absolutely shocking. Do not eat fish, and in my opinion, do not eat any meat whatsoever in third world countries. And, I would say don't eat meat, period, but especially in third world countries. Somebody asked, Tyler, do they have to be raw to heal or can they be cooked? There are components of foods that are concentrated when cooked, kind of like lycopenes in tomatoes that are actually concentrated when they're cooked. And there are lots of components of foods that are actually degraded in enzymatic qualities that are completely gone when you cook foods as well. And I think that's one of the reasons why my dad when people go through the cancer protocol specifically, he'll have them eat one fresh head of broccoli and one steamed head of broccoli, because you'll get different aspects concentrated in both. The ancient Egyptians actually taught that if you couldn't squeeze a bit of juice out of something, like if you try to squeeze a grape, or you try to squeeze a capsicum, or you squeeze all these different foods and juice comes out, they're meant to be eaten fresh. But if you try to squeeze broccoli, or you try to squeeze a potato, unless you're really strong, or you try to squeeze a carrot, no juice comes out and they're meant to be eaten raw. And that's just one of the teachings of the ancient Egyptians that I find quite interesting, something that you could apply. Excellent. Someone said, great presentation, was inspired by your dad last year, and really believe that foods can heal us. Mushrooms help the thyroid, and they can be juiced. Thank you, Magic. That's one I didn't even put on there. There's so many others, that I didn't put in here, but mushrooms look like the thyroid. Mushrooms, my dad has people eat 1 cup of mushrooms per day if they have thyroid conditions. And it absolutely brings the thyroid back. I tell people as well to add nori wraps. Nori specifically is really high in B12. It's really high in different components, essentially iodine and things that are really good for the thyroid. And I even have PubMed studies that show individuals, humans and others, that have been given the nori, and their B12 is definitely assimilable from that food. There's a lot of question around B12, but nori is one of them that does it, and there's scientific research to prove it. Hi, Tyler. My 10-year-old daughter has a bit of eczema on her ear, hand, and foot. Do you recommend removing any foods from her diet? What I would recommend doing is adding a lot of nutritional juices into her diet. Use coconut oil on those areas and get out into the sun and start to develop a tan if possible. Also, hot salt baths and lavender essential oil can be really healing for the skin. Foods high in fiber, and maybe looking at foods that create reactions, getting on a very detailed type of diet and keeping track of things. And maybe when you bring something in and there's a flare-up, really looking at that thing to find out if that's maybe one of the response mechanisms, which a lot of times can be. And I just wrote an article actually on psoriasis and eczema and skin conditions that you can find on my Facebook page, either my personal or regular page. It'll only be a couple articles down. Highly recommend watching that video and reading that as well. Hi, Tyler. Love you. What about high blood pressure? So we've had plenty of people with high blood pressure, family, friends, and even other people that have come to us with high blood pressure issues. When I say family, I mean like people that are really close to us. And essentially, it's grapefruits. If you eat 1 grapefruit or 2 grapefruits, they can be any kind. Ruby red is fantastic. You can add some honey to it and eat it just the way that it is. But it's also the white pectins inside of the grapefruit that really have a profound way of cleaning the fats and cleaning the plaque out of the circulatory system. So there's 2 main things that need to happen. Number 1, we need to boost hydration, because if you can imagine the state of the circulatory system when we're dehydrated, it's like a hose without water in it that's not very rigid, and it sinks, and it takes a lot of pressure to push the water through it. Whereas when you build the blood volume, then the hose is completely expanded and blood flows a lot easier. So individuals need to drink 1 liter per 22 kgs of body weight every single day. For me, I drink 4 liters of water minimum every day, and I add about a pinch of salt to each one. And sometimes I don't. And sometimes I put a little bit more depending on how I feel. But the salt, a little bit of salt, will help regulate the water inside of your cells. That's why if you're ever sick and you go to a hospital, they give you a slight saline solution of water called an IV. And people pay $600 for that little bag of salt water, which, if you're conscious, you could simply just put some salt in some water and drink it and save yourself $600. How do you get rid of these growths on the skin? Okay, so the growths on the skin are a sign that there is an actual organ within the body, an organelle system or something that's congested within the body. And there are charts that show the different meridians of the body so that you can actually find the spot where you have a growth. And it'll be on a meridian line, let's say for the kidneys or for the liver or for the lungs. Then you know you need to start cleansing the body. And the cool thing is you can start eating and targeting those organs. But the cool thing also is whenever you do a cleanse, everything has an opportunity to detox. Whenever you do a fast, everything has the opportunity to detox. And I've created systems of teaching people how to fast. How, the 13-week Heal Thyself at Home course is teaching you how to facilitate a water fast, how to facilitate a juice fast, what specific things to do, how to heal different disease symptoms and ailments and things naturally. And then I also have free programs like the online juice fast where you can simply get on there and experience a 7-day juice fast, and it gives you all of the protocols that will make the fast so much easier. The recipes of juices and all these different things to be doing, gua sha, which will start everything healing. Now I would recommend doing the gua sha, which is a skin scrub to clean and open the skin so that it can dump out and pour like it's supposed to, which is a massive organ for elimination. Now, if you have a specific mole or skin tag or any type of growth, you can buy 35% food grade hydrogen peroxide and take a little Q-tip or a little something and dip it in that 35%, very highly corrosive, by the way. You got to be really careful with this. But you take that little bit and you just put a little drop on the actual skin tag or mole or whatever it is, whatever growth. You put a drop and you do that maybe 5, 6, 7, 10 times in an hour, and you do that every single day. I might, if I had a little growth, I'd do it 5, 6, 7 times in the morning, then in the afternoon. If it's a really hard growth, you might need to get your nail in there or aggravate it. Even get a little razor blade and just kind of open it up a little bit so it can really get inside, because a lot of times there's a hard shell when people have had these for a very long time. And that H2O2 will kill it to the core. It'll actually go in and absolutely destroy the whole thing and evaporate it. Absolutely phenomenal. The thing you got to realize is that H2O2 is used naturally by our immune system as well. The white blood cells of our body actually excrete H2O2 to kill viruses, bacteria, pathogens, and other things within the body. So just being very careful to get it on that specific point. Typically within 3 days, it'll be completely gone. It'll heal, and you'll never even recognize it was there. Unless it's a big one. Some people have really big fat moles and things, then there might be a little bit of a scar. Use vitamin E oil, use plant oils, do yourself a little bit of a fasting thing to cleanse the body, and it'll heal a lot better. All right, excellent. What can we use to clean our skin if we don't use soaps? Watch my video and read my articles on gua sha. And if you do that every second day, your skin will be cleaner than it's ever been. Your skin will be soft, even on your face. It'll glow. You'll feel fantastic. I recommend using gua sha at least every other day, every 2 to 3 days, however you feel. Some people do it every single day and have been for months and even years and still love it. Then put some coconut oil on your skin afterwards, and it's absolutely fantastic. The best way to open up and clean acidic bacteria, yeast, mold, fungus, parasites, and other things out of your skin. So check those articles out. People have been doing it for 5+ years. Helps with tanning. I've had redheads who can now tan. They had fair skin and could never get out in the sun. Now they're getting out in the sun, developing a tan. Even in Australia, most of the people I work with are from Australia. I know I got sometimes Australians like, oh, it's not like the sun here. It's not going to work. We got a hole in the ozone. And actually, it's mostly surfers and people that I know from Australia that are using this and no longer using sunscreen. They're doing the cleansing, they're eating a healthy diet, they're using coconut oil, and they can go out and surf for hours at a time, and they're not burning. Amazing! What foods are good for the autoimmune disease, ankylosis? So, specifically, I'd recommend doing a really big cleanse, a colon cleanse, and a fast, but also probably a parasite cleanse. And there's a lot of products I'm bringing to market and developing at the moment that are all food-based organic, amazing products. But what I'd recommend is really finding the green husks of walnuts and also a good source of wormwood, and using also cloves. And you can buy whole clove or you can buy ground clove and just make a tea every day. You can make an herbal tea. It could be a whatever kind of tea that you like, and you add in a pinch of the cloves, and then you actually, like, sometimes you can buy a good quality capsules of wormwood and needs to be green walnut husks. You can open that up and actually just dump it into your tea and stir it and drink it. 2 to 3 of those capsules, you won't even really taste it. Add a little bit of honey if you need to, and drink that down twice a day, and that will radically kill off parasites. It'll radically kill off bad bacteria and other types of things. Whether you realize you have parasites or not, or any of these conditions, I recommend doing it anyway. And you'll notice the way that you feel, because everybody has parasites. When I say everybody, I mean like 95% of people are dealing with different levels of parasites that are detrimental to human health. Because of our exposure to eating meats, because of our exposure to different things that exist, because people's digestive systems are so backed up, parasites feed on plaque. So there's parasites of all different kinds. There's thousands of kinds of them. And these whole foods, specifically the green walnut husk, is probably the most profound thing that you can be using. Drink a tea morning and night and do it for about 4 or 5 days, and then get off it, and maybe do that once a month. The ancient Egyptians spent 4 days every month cleaning the digestive system, doing enemas. Yes, they did it even back then. So many different beautiful things, but also taking very specific herbs and seeds to clean the body out and get rid of parasites and other things of that nature. So 4 days a month, you go through this process, and you will not be getting sick, especially if you observe the intermittent fasting and some of the other lifestyle principles that I share as well. What about something like Lyme disease? I've had people with very aggressive Lyme disease come to my 30-day program. We've had great success in the complete healing of all disease symptoms with Lyme's. I have one person right now on my 13-week Heal Thyself at Home course that had massive Lyme disease, and she just, I think 2 weeks ago, posted this whole article how she can't believe how healthy she is and how she has no symptoms and everything's improving and healing. And she's just blown away by it. I recently just took some photos of her saying that actually and posted it. And if you want to see that, I'm more than happy to share it with you. You can send me a Facebook message. I've gone over my hour on the Heal Thyself at Home. I do questions and answers webinars where I specifically answer everybody's questions. I recommend getting onto the Heal Thyself at Home. It's a fantastic system. 13 weeks of completely healing your body, becoming educated. Absolutely fantastic. Definitely worth every penny. It's only $599 for the 13-week system. You're totally supported online. I do Q&A webinars every week, and I keep you inspired and going. If you really want to transform your life, if you want to be educated in true health and actually go out and help other people, if you want to be a health coach, if you want to just help your family or just heal yourself, it's probably, in my opinion, the best system of things that actually work. And the thing about the system is, as you're learning, you're actually doing it. And there is nothing more profound than having the experience and the profound wisdom that comes from doing. There's so many, coaching systems and nutritional courses out there, but they're just telling you what to tell people, and it's mostly supplements and nutraceuticals and pharmaceuticals and so many other things that are just being crammed down these people's throats. We really need to get back to simplicity. And this is based on profound knowledge that my father's been sharing for many, many years. That's come from ancient Egypt, from ancient cultures, and a lot of it's based on the present day science of today. So check it out. And without further ado, I want to give away a Heal Thyself at Home course. So here's the instructions. Hope this is very clear. I need you to write, "I love Tyler Tolman's Health Hit webinar." On the post that I just posted before I started this webinar that says, I'm starting this webinar in 2 minutes. Go on to that post. First person to post, I love Tyler Tolman's Health Hit webinar, is going to win the Heal Thyself at Home. Go. All right, so I'm going to pull up my website, my Facebook, and we'll all have a look at who actually gets it. All right, here we go. Got 5 comments on there so far. I love Tyler Tolman's Health Hit webinar. Greg Matter, you rock. Let's just make sure you just did that. You just do that, or was that like an hour ago? Just now, yes. Greg Matter, you are a stud. You are lightning fast. You win the Heal Thyself at Home webinar. I find this really interesting too because essentially guys are winning it. I've got like Matt Hutchinson, James, all these guys winning this when most of the people on my webinars are women. So women, get that lightning speed typing going on. Love you guys. Thanks for being on here. I can't wait to see you next week. Even more profound knowledge and information and things I want to share next week. Super excited about it. We'll let you know online. Thanks for watching. This is Tyler Tolman, signing off.